Yeah. So let's start the today's session. So what is our agenda? So today we work with Apex code. So working with server-side controller. So we know how to work with component and application, how to use the helpers, and how to use a style element. Now today we'll go through a main concept working with Apex code. So that is Apex code is nothing but our server-side controller. So as a part of this, we'll come to know how to get the value or how to return the value from the client side, from the server side controller. Also, how to pass the value to the server side controller. So if you know how to get the value and how to pass the value, and rest of the operations are the same. So you must know how to return the value from the server side controller, how to capture those values in the client side controller. At the same time, when you have the values in the client side controller, how to pass those values to the server side controller to perform some operations and sending back the results. So these are the main areas. So we'll focus on these areas today. If time allows, we'll pick few other concepts. So before writing the server side controller, so let's have a quick uh, introduction about the MVC in both VF and Lightning. So we have already discussed on this, but let me recall it again. So in MVC, the model view controller. So let's talk about VF first. So Visual Force MVC. So in MVC, so we have a view. So here view is referred as our Visual Force, and this is the server side. So in server side itself, we have controller and the model. So controller is our, let's say, assume that this is our controller. Controller is our server side code. That is our Apex code. So Apex class code. So this is our form. So let's say this is our page, Visual Force page, where user enters the input and passes the data to the controller. So how the communication is? So always the communication is from Visual Force page to controller, at the same time controller to a Visual Force page. So to connect to, generally to connect to our data model, so what we will do? So we will use our database. So we have the Salesforce database that is referred as our model. So this is a model. So the communication between, so the communication is in between controller and the model. So this is how the MVC is. So generally end user. So here is end user. End user works with the Visual Force. He enters the form. So when he clicks on a button, what are the inputs that I enter in the Visual Force? We pass the data to the controller. From controller, so we we do some DML operations if required, or to fetch the data. Let's say I would like to fetch the existing contacts or existing account information. So we get the data from the controller. Here, controller is a key area. So it controls the entire flow. So it is nothing but our server side code. So to perform any DML operations or to fetch the data, to query the data from Salesforce database, controller is the key area. So it queries the data or it pushes the data to the model and returns the data to the Visual Force. So this is how the MVC is. So this is in Visual Force. So to refer any Apex class in our Visual Force page, what we will do, this is Visual Force page. So we define a keyword called controller. Controller equal to our class name. So that what is the class that you define? This is a class code. This is our Apex class, public class and class name. So what is the class that you define? That is linked to your Visual Force. So in case if you perform any actions, let's say command button, value equal to submit, action equal to submit. So to invoke any action, so here is a do submit. So we use actions here, public void do submit and some logic. So put the server side logic here. So this is our Visual Force page and this is our Apex server side code. So once you have the Apex class, using a controller keyword, you have to define the class name and any action within the class name, you can call it using an action attribute. So this is a general flow. So which means we can call any controller method directly from the Visual Force. So we can call it from Visual Force. So in Visual Force, we specify the action and call any controller method. So this is how the MVC in Visual Force. So let's go to the Lightning version. So there is no change in the server side. Server side still remains the same. It has the Apex code and it has a database. So always the communication in between an Apex database and server side will happen through the controller logic. So that is our server side controller. So this is a server side controller. But coming to the client side, so here this is a browser. This is the client side. In client side, instead of Visual Force page, we refer components. Components are the applications. So this is our, let's say this is our component. So these components are connected to the controllers. These components are the connected to the controller, similar to how Visual Force pages are connected to the controllers. So here, this is our server-side class. The server-side class is connected to the controller using a controller keyword. But here, each component is related to in the component bundle. So we have the client-side controller. So always the communication in between server-side controller and the client-side controller will be done. So which means to connect to call any Apex method, so the Apex method can be called only from the client-side controller. So you cannot directly call it from the component. In our scenario, if it is a Visual Force page, you can call any action, Apex action from the Visual Force directly. So whereas in Lightning MVC, This is the concept of Lightning MVC. So in Lightning MVC, so you cannot directly call any Apex method from the component. So you have to invoke client-side controller method first from client-side controller. So you can invoke the server-side controller. So there is no change in the server-side flow. So this is the client-side controller. This is also a controller, but which is a client-side controller in client-side. The communication in between these two, component and controller, will be done. The communication is happening in between component and the client-side controller. This is a communication flow. At the same time, from controller, the communication will be will be done to the server-side controller methods. So anyway, you have cache memory. So you have the cache, which is our local database maintained by the Lightning framework, and all the results will be stored in a cache storage that we refer as a client-side database. We call it as client-side database. So it's like a model. So always, if you don't refresh the page, the values will be taken from the cache data. So the moment when you refresh the page completely, it always connects to the controller, so the server-side controller. So this is how the Lightning MVC. So now we are going to invoke. So we are going to talk in today's session. We are going to talk this flow. How the communication in between a client-side controller and a server-side controller. So we are going to talk the red marked one. So what we do, we will create some Apex classes and link those Apex classes to the component, and so we define a client-side controller, and from client-side controller we invoke a server-side action. So as part of this, as a part of today's session, we invoke the Apex method to get some values or to pass the values to the client-side controller and queries the data from the object and return the results to the client-side controller. From client-side controller, what are the data you have that can be passed to the component. And this is how the flow. So even in previous session, so what we have discussed so far, so we discussed only the MVC, this one. Discussed only the client-side part. So we haven't created any Apex class so far. So in today's session, so we will cover that. So this is how the MVC in Lightning. If you understand the MVC, then the flow will be easier. So we define either here the component is nothing but either it can be a component or the application. You know how to define the controller. So internal framework maintains the cache that will be stored in the Lightning database, that is in the cache database for the performance. So to quickly display the data or doing some operations with the cache memory. So I'm going to define an Apex controller now. So how to define an Apex class? Go to File, new Apex class. So let's say this is my first class. Put it as Apex class 1. You can put any name, a reasonable name. So in general, so here is my Apex class. So to invoke in Lightning, to invoke any Apex method from the client-side controller, the Apex method must be enabled as Aura enable annotation. So annotation is nothing but an identifier. When you are so the same class can be used in class version also. So but you can reuse the same class. You can define some methods as Aura enable and some are not. So the same class is reused in both classic version and the lightning version. So any method that can be used as a lightning that can be used in a lightning framework, so must be enabled as Aura enable, and it must be defined as a static method. So Aura enable public static and return type and method name. So I'm going to define one method Aura enable public static void, let's say my display name. So display name is a method name. I just want to print some debug. So this is just a debug statement. So the moment when I click on this method, the moment when I invoke this method, I can see the results in my debug, system.debug, and my name is so and so message. So this is a class. So copy the class name. How to use a class or how to invoke. The first one is how to use a class in our Lightning. So to use a class in a Lightning framework, so we have to use controller keyword, controller equal to and the class name. So just copying the class name and go to the Lightning application. Let's say Apex 1. So this is my Lightning application. Define extends equal to force SLES and controller equal to so Apex class 1. So this is how we have to link a server-side class to the Lightning application, similar to the Visual Force. In Visual Force, how you define the controller equal to and a class name. Same. So an application is nothing but it is a page. Component is nothing but it is a page. So I'm using the controller. So the controller equal to and the class name. So you can use the same in the controller or you can use the same in the application. So this is an application. So as I told you, so to invoke any server-side method, everything should be from the controller. So because component cannot directly interact with the server-side actions. So you have to define a client-side controller first. So to define a client-side controller, so we need a function, we need a client-side method. So I'm just defining one button, lightning button. What is the label? Label equal to invoke. On click equal to do invoke. So here is the client-side method. Define a controller, client-side controller. Just click on it. Here is a method name. So from here, we need to invoke server-side methods. So first thing is how to invoke the server-side method. We have to understand, and how to capture the values or how to pass the values back to the controller. So in a basic example, I'm not returning any values here. So just a debug statement. I'm not returning any values here. So I just wanted to try. I just wanted to execute the method. Display name is the method name. Just copy the name. We have to use the exact name in the client-side controller. So to invoke any server-side method, syntax is syntax is action. So you can define any variable name. Just define one variable. So just define one variable. You can define any name. Generally, I put it as an action. Variable action equal to component dot get off c dot and the method name. This will refer server-side method. Display name is the server-side action. So this will invoke server-side action. So to invoke the method, let's say this is just addition to this, you have to add one more statement. So $a dot nq action, $a dot nq action of your action parameter. This is the one. So this will invoke, it invokes the server-side controller method. You have to specify the exact name. The display name is the method. So to invoke the server-side controller method, we have to use c dot method name. So what it does? $nq action. So this will add the action to the queue. So there can be multiple actions. All the actions will be added to the queue to execute one by one. So we have to use $a dot nq action of your action parameter. So this is a syntax. So I'm just invoking that method. I'm not going to set any values in the client-side controller. I'm just trying to invoke that method. First, we need to understand how to invoke the server-side action. So later, how to capture the values. So now, enable the logs to see the debug result. I'm going to enable debug logs for the user. Now to enable the logs, go to debug logs. So I'm just enabling the logs for 24 hours. What are the apex will execute in our R? It will show the debugs there. So it will show the debugs for the current user. So let's say so I don't see any logs here. I'm going to execute invoke. Just click on invoke button. I have executed invoke. Go to debug logs and refresh and see whether the method is invoked or not. Clear all the debug logs first. What is the current user? 7. Put it as So here the syntax is c dot do invoke. That's the syntax. C dot do invoke and preview. So now click on do invoke action. Invoke. Here. Controller equal to apex class 1 on click equal to do invoke. Do we have the same method in the controller? So no. We have to use do invoke. And preview the application. Click on invoke. I don't see any errors. Just check the debug log. So I can see some text. My name is so and so. So this is how. So which means if you are able to print the results in a debug, so means that the method is executed. The method is executed and the method is executed from a Lightning application. So on click of invoke button, so check the flow. So here is an application. So in MVC, we have an application. So application is nothing but, let me highlight that. This is an application. From the application, what I have do invoke method. I have do invoke method. I define the same method in controller, in client-side controller. So go to client-side controller. So this is the do invoke method. From client-side controller, I am invoking display name. So this display name is a method in server-side controller. So to invoke it, so where I am invoking the client server-side method. So invoke is done from the client-side controller. So this is a communication. So this is where. So this is where we are talking about. The communication is done in between client-side controller and the server-side controller. So any Apex method can be invocable from the client-side controller. So first we have to define anything in the client-side controller. From client-side controller only you can invoke the server-side actions. Any questions so far?
So can you explain me what is a $A? And $A is something, there are multiple things right on that.
Yeah. So $A refers an application event. So $A.enqueue action of and your action. Let's say an application can have multiple actions. So when you have multiple actions, then all the actions should be added to the queue. In order to execute all the actions to the queue, we have to use $enqueue action and your action parameter. This can be anything. So if you define as a method, you have to put it as a method. It's just a method reference. The syntax. So simply I can say to invoke any Apex method, we have to use $enqueue action. That is a standard syntax. So what it does, it will add the action to the queue. So when you have multiple actions in the multiple actions are running, so all the actions will be added to the queue. Clear?
Yeah, Venkat. Yeah.
Yeah. So let me take the code back up. go to another example. So my requirement is I want to return the values. I want to return. So here we are not returning any values. I'm using the same code. I'll do some changes to the existing code. So I have a class. Class name is Apex class 1. So I want to return the value from a server-side controller to the client-side controller. And from client-side controller, I would like to display the value in a component. So how can you return the value? So instead of showing a plain debug message, I would like to return. Let's say I would like to return some text. So I would like to return my name. So this return type is string. We have to change the return type to string. This is our class 4. So when you return the value, so somewhere you are invoking the value, somewhere you are invoking the server-side method, right, from the client-side controller. So we have to capture the value here. To capture the value, we have SetCallback. We have to define SetCallback method. So what it does, so once you invoke any Apex method, so once the execution is completed, so what are the results? So either it can be the success or the failure, or it will return some list of data, or it can return some string, or it can return some error message. So what are the value that will return from a server-side action will be captured at SetCallback. So how you define? So you have a, let's say, put it a proper name, action. So you just define SetCallback is for to capture the status or results or one after the server-side action. So just define action dot SetCallback. Action dot SetCallback. So it has few parameters. This is standard parameter, this function, and the response. Response is a one parameter. So you have to write your code here to capture the results. So where the results will be stored, the results will be stored in a response parameter. So this is a syntax. You have to define a callback like this. This is a common syntax for any callback method. Just capturing the value here. So what are the values you will get in a set callback? One is state. What is the state? Whether it is success or it is error. And another one is results, output. The results which are returning from the server-side controller. So I'm just getting the state variable state equal to all the values from the response parameter. You can change the parameter if you want. This can be any name. Response dot get state. So this will return either success or error. What are the state? Okay. So if state equal to success, if there is no errors in the client side server side controller, always the state is success. Let's say if there is any DML error, or if there is any SOCL error, if there is any runtime error in a server side controller, always the state is error. So generally these are the two states, success and the error. If it is success, then what needs to be done? Variable result equal to response dot get return value. So this will return the actual result. So now I want to see the result. Console.log, just see result. Save it. Preview the application. Inspect the result. So the moment when I click on Invoke, I don't see any result here. Just check the code. action dot set callback this function and the response dot state get state, put the console dot log, just do the debug. And preview. See, you can see success state and the name. Let me invoke again. Invoke. I can see success and the name. So how the name is coming? The name is coming from Apex class. So here is a class. This is returning. This is a method. This method is returning the some string. So I'm able to capture the string value here. So let me simplify this by removing all these comments. Very simple code. How to use always. This is the code. Now first thing, this will invoke server side action, and if the server side action returns any value, then you have to use SetCallback. If you don't want to capture anything, no need to use it. If you want to use it, what are the generally we return the value most of the time. So even if, when you pass the data from client side controller to the server side controller, at least we will get the IDs back. So we use the SetCallback. So this the syntax for SetCallback is this. So it has two parameters. This refers the same component and the function of response. This is the syntax. So this response is the key here. So it will capture the states and it will capture the response results. So I'm just writing a method called response.getState. So getState is a pre-built method. So this will give either success or error. So if the state is success, then get the result. If the state is error, then you can do some alternative operation also. Else, you put some logic here. Display some error message. Display some alert message saying that there is some error in the code. Now when you have the result, let's say I have the result. When you have the result, how to pass the result back to your component or the application. So to store the values, you have to define attribute that is equal to string. So here is my name. Just printing the values here, v dot my name, and adding some CSS, font size 40 pixels, color let's say blue. So on click of invoke action, I want to invoke a client-side method, client-side controller method. From client-side controller method, I'm invoking a server-side controller method. Once the server-side controller method invokes, I'm adding the set callback to capture the results. So once I have the results, I need to assign the result back to attribute component dot set v dot my name that result. Save it. Check the preview. The moment when I click on invoke, this is a button in application. this button invokes a client-side controller action. From client-side controller, it will invoke the server side and back the result back to the client-side controller action. And from client-side controller, we are going to place the value in the application. I just clicked on invoke. See? Let me refresh. Click on invoke. So I can see the result. I can see the name. See? You can see. How the value is coming? The value is coming from an Apex controller. Apex controller method. Any questions?
So Venkat, when you do that get method name, right? Is it almost like a syntax is like a getter of the component?
Yeah, it's similar to so when you because you defined an Apex class to your application.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you define it to get any so I mean to invoke any server side method. So this is a syntax.
Yeah.
You have the component dot get of that method name.
Okay. It looks very similar to the getter function, right? What we normally use in last two
Correct.
three classes.
Correct. Here C refers our controller, the server side controller.
Okay.
Copy the code. Now let's move to another example. So now my requirement is I want to pass the value input from client side controller to server side controller. So for example, let's say I want to design one such functionality. For example, I want to design something like this. So I enter one key, any key, let's say enter account industry or account phone number or the account name, say industry. So I would like to display. So based on search key, I would like to display the customer name. Let's say uh, name, phone, and industry. So I would like to display one customer name like this. You can also use. You can also use a lightning code for it. This is my requirement. You can also use lightning code. Let's display one logo and title. So what are the steps we have to do? First thing is application. Check the flow application. So from application, we have to invoke ClientSide Controller. So this ClientSide Controller invokes server-side controller action, and once the action is completed, so this will return results. So what we will do? This will return results back to client-side controller. In client-side controller, what it does? So we have to use SetCallback method. So once the state is success, we'll display the results back to application. So these are the different elements. So this is an application, which is a view, and this is a client-side controller, which is our client-side controller, and this is a server-side action, right? So this is a view. Actually, this is the view. This is a complete application. So this application has some component. This application has a component and some action. So I'm going to implement this now. So let's implement quickly. It's a new Apex class. For example, get account controller. You can define any name. Account or customer controller. Customer details. Customer details is a class name. You have to define or enable public static. So what you are returning here, I am returning account information. This is the account information. So here the return type is account and get account is the method. So to return the account, first we need a key. So I'll enter the key here. This is a key. The industry key. String str industry. Account obj equal to, it just define an account. Return, or else you can directly return the value. Return, select ID. ID is the key ID, name, phone, industry, from account, where industry equal to str industry. So you can put the limit 1 because we are returning only one account. I'll show you what happens if you don't use a limit here. So what it does, simply one method, it receives one input parameter and identifies the account record. So copy the class name, define an application. Application name is Apex2 or customer search. So what you have to define, extends equal to force SLES and controller equal to and the controller name. So now you have to define the attributes. So what are the attributes you require? One is a key attribute and one is an account attribute. Account. So account attribute for display capturing the account information and key is for passing the input. So defining here or attribute name equal to str key, type equal to what is the key? String type. At the same time or attribute name equal to acc record, type equal to account. What is the default value? You know how to define the default. S object type colon account. This is initialization. So already discussed in previous session. Now I want input. I'm just defining some input form, division, div tag. If you want, you can use the style here, or you can define separate CSS. Just defining here, style equal to, let's say margin left 100 pixels or margin 100 pixels. What is the height of the div? What is the width of the div? Let's say division is for 500 pixels or 400 pixels. And inside of the div, I'm just adding lightning input. Lightning input, the label equal to industry, value equal to v.str key. So this is a key. I'm going to store the value in this key. Save it. Check the preview once. So this is how it looks like. Industry. Make it bold or maybe that's fine. So label equal to industry, value equal to str key. I'm going to place a button now. Lightning button, label equal to search, on click equal to. So first you have to invoke the client side controller method. Do search. Define controller. Do search. Save it. Check the preview. So here is a search button. So industry and search button. You can use it. So I'll put the industry here and click of search button. I want to display a lightning code. On click of search button, I want to display it. So you need a flag variable. So remember our if condition or attribute name equal to flag type equal to boolean. So I'm defining or attribute or if is true equal to. If the flag is true, then only display. Initially, default value is false. Default equal to false. So I'm defining a lightning code. Lightning code icon name equal to a standard account icon. You know how to display the icons also. On title, what is the title I would like to put? Customer details. And put the details here. Division style equal to padding 5 pixels. You know what is the purpose of padding? So I would like to display the details here. The first one is name. So you have ACC record. I'm going to store the results there. ACC record dot name, phone, v dot ACC record dot phone, industry, v dot ACC record dot industry. Put the breaks to each value. Save it. So if the flag is true, then only I am going to display account information. This is for customer details section. This is the section for entering industry for search. These are the attributes. These are the attributes to store the results. Variables, just a variables. So now go to do search. The do search. How to invoke a method? What is the method name? Get account. First invoke a method. Calling server side action get account. How to invoke it? Variable action equal to component dot get of key dot and the method name. So once you call them, once you invoke the method, just put it enq action and your action. This is a common. Now this method is expecting some input. What is the input? str industry. Str based on the input only, it will return the value. So you have to pass the value to this method. How to pass the value? Before set callback itself, you have to pass the value. This is for passing the str industry value to the server side controller. Controller method. What is the method? Get account. So how to pass the value? Action dot the standard method name. Set params. Remember syntax. So always you have to pass the values in which format? JSON format, because the communication in between a client side controller and the server side controller always will be in the JSON. So before that, we'll get the value here. Component dot get of v dot what is the key? str key. So once you have the industry value, I'm passing the value to this parameter. How is the exact name? This one. So this is a JSON format. What the format is? This is the format. This is the JSON format. This is JSON. If you have multiple parameters, just put comma here and enter the values like this. But now I have only one parameter. So let's simplify this. So this will this is a parameter to the server method. So now set callback. So action dot set callback is function response. So when you start working on this, you can easily remember these syntaxes. Variable state equal to response dot get state. If state equal to success, state is success, then variable result equal to response.get return value. So once you have the result, so here the result is the return type is an account. It will return an account. Once you have the account, where you have to store it? You have to store it in ACC record. So first store the value component dot set dot ACC record comma result. Once you store the value, just display flag also. Make the flag true to display the customer detail section. Check the preview. So I'm just entering some industry. Click on search. Inspect. I don't see any results. Let's debug the code. So check from the console.log state. And check the result here. Console.log result. Save it and save the application also again. Initially, default value of the flag is false. Now, on click of do search, I'm going to change the default value to true. Check the preview once. So check whether you have the data in the database or not. Yeah, I have the data uh, for the industry energy. So I have 3 records. Anyway, we are just displaying 1 record. So yeah, I have the data. So let's go to the application now. Let's go to one by one. So here the common mistake is C dot not identifying the server client side action. C dot do search and preview. Energy search. Still I don't see any results. So here I can see the results now. Let me refresh. So because the problem with the Lightning is it will take time. So the moment when you save it, the results will not reflect immediately because of the caching. The moment when you reload it completely, then only the results will appear. So this is a cache issue. It will take. So once you save it, just wait for a few seconds and you can see the results. So now in just adding some additional CSS to make it more beautiful. Hide the pixels with pixels. left margin code. So this is how the results are coming. So first, this is an input. On click of search button, I'm invoking client-side action. From the client-side action, we are invoking server-side action. From the server-side action, based on the search key, I'm querying the data and return the result back to callback. That is a client-side again. From client-side controller, I'm verifying whether it is a success or the error. If it is success, and set back the results back to the application. See. So here, so these are the values. These are the output you can see because I just printed results. The results are in JSON format. The results are in JSON format. Questions here?
No, Venkat, I'm okay.
Yeah. See, the same flow we did. So first we defined an application and a client-side controller action. From client-side controller action, we are invoking server-side controller. So once the server-side controller is invoked, it will return back the results. The results will be stored in SetCallback. So from SetCallback, we are verifying the status and storing the values back to the application. So let's say we just verified in database we have 3 results. So 3 results with the same industry. So what will happen if I don't put the limit? So this will if you don't put the limit, it will return 3 records, 3 accounts having the same industry. So but what it does? So but it is returning only account in the return time. This is an error. So the error name is subject has more records. A subject has more records to return. That is a common error. A subject has more records to return. This is an error message. So if there is no errors, then what it does? A subject has no records. Because this is returning only one account, but expected results are 3. So this is an error message. So when you get an error message, what it does? Just check the preview. It's entering the same industry. You can see the error. Anything which is failure in the server side controller, so the state will be the error. So what should be done? Here, state should be the error. If else, if it is not success, then display an alert message saying error. Error found. And what you can do here, put the try catch.
So Venkat, right? So you are actually querying the account, right? And the account or return type is actually an account list of account.
Yeah, if it is a list of account, then you don't get any error. But the return type is a single record, but expected results are 3 records. That is an error here.
So, but when can you not return a return type as a list of account?
So we can return that. So when you return the list of accounts, then we have to change the application. So here you have to receive the list of accounts. We'll cover that. The next session I'll show you that.
Okay, okay.
I'll show you in next session. I'll show you how to capture the error messages, how to return the list of accounts.
Yeah, but in the server side Apex, right? You have written that go to that class. So public static account, right? Does that mean that it is just only returning in a one record
Yeah, this will
or
return.
one?
No, this will return only one account record. If the return type is an account, so for example, if the return type is integer, so which means this will return only integer. If it is a list of integer, this will return multiple integers. Same.
Okay, all right.
If it is an
Okay,
account, it will return one account record. If it is a list of account, it will return multiple accounts. So in our case,
okay,
it is only one account.
okay.
So this is a basic session. We'll come to know more examples. So any questions here?
No, I think I'm okay. Normally in Apex, right, when we declare SOQL, right, we define list of account equal to new list of account, and then we do the select column name from that object, right? That is a standard practice we are always do, right?
Correct. This is standard
Yeah.
practice. This is one of the example where it will return only one customer record. Let's say
Okay.
in a database, when based on the party ID, if you want to search the customer data, just put the party ID in the key and get the customer details.
Correct. Yeah. So what is your first name? Either Venkat or Narasimha?
My first name is Venkat.
Yeah, because last time I was like, I normally I try to call you Narasimha because the way your emails are coming as Nara, right?
My friends call me Nara. My close friends call me
Okay,
Nara.
okay. No, I just like, your email was nara.net, something was there, and I thought that